The first rule of model railroading is, there are no rules. Now that's not to say the laws of physics or electrical engineering don't apply, but when it comes to designing things, running trains, or generally setting up a layout, there is no absolute right or wrong method. As they said in Model Railroader magazine, repeat after me, it's my railroad. That being said, there are as many possible track plans as there are possible snowflakes. Depending on what you want from your layout, you can add elements to it that can really enhance how it operates, or simply elevate your level of enjoyment. In this video, I will look at a variety of virtual model layouts in Trainz Railroad Simulator 2019 and go over just a few overarching but working theories of design. Theory number 1. Watch them go round. This is the classic model train layout concept, and many of us started with a layout like this. Some of us built these layouts ourselves, while for others our dad or relative built it. The key element here is a loop. It can be a simple oval, something that crosses over itself, or something that changes elevation and dips over and under itself. This is the ideal design theory if all you want to do is set your trains up and watch them go. It's a perfectly legitimate way to run model trains, and does not have to be limited to small layouts either. If you want to add a few extra elements, like sidings and operating tracks, these layouts often lend themselves to it nicely. That's where some of the other theories begin to come into play, but sidings for the sake of sidings are not inherently a bad thing. Many got into the hobby of model railroading with a layout like this, and for some it is all they want from the hobby. If you are happy with a layout like this, there's no reason not to keep it. Some modelers eventually want more from a layout though, and that's where our next theory comes in. Theory number 2. Point A to point B. Personally, I get the most enjoyment out of switching, or shunting, depending on your side of the pond. Moving loads and general busywork keeps me entertained for hours. When you spend a lot of time around trains in model form, it's easy to forget what they are there to do in the first place. Railroads, or railways, exist to move things and people from one location to another, from point A to point B. This is why the writers at Model Railroader magazine often recommended coming up with a story, or reason for one's model railroad. What service did it provide? When considering a layout that emphasizes freight operations, one must remember that a freight car is traveling from point A to point B. As an example of this, we'll look at Model Railroader magazine's Virginian layout, recreated in Trainz Simulator by Nick Ozerak of Great Train Layouts and Streamliner Media. The Virginian is a 4x8 HO-scale layout with a couple of extensions built on. It is intended to represent coal operations in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Although the original layout is themed after the Virginian Railway, I like to run it as an N&W branch in the simulator. The operations are almost self-explanatory. Empty coal hoppers are brought to the mines, loaded hoppers are sent from the mines, and a variety of general freight comes and goes from various places. So what is point A and what is point B? In this case, for inbound traffic, point A is this staging yard, representing the outside world, and point B is a mine or other industrial site as appropriate for each car. For outbound traffic, point A is an industry or mine, and point B is the staging yard. What makes the Virginian a wonderful layout in my mind is how it provides a challenge in a small space, offering both road freight and local switching operations. Point A to point B is the foundation, but juggling those freight cars and getting them into their proper place in a timely manner is where the fun is for me. I can easily spend a few hours working this layout in the simulator, and I have on multiple occasions. Starts here, ends there is a fairly simple mantra as far as model railroad freight operations go, but there's a variation of the concept that deserves a look as well. Theory number 3. Endless operation. To wit, what would happen if something is traveling from point A to point B, but both points are the same location? Well, it's traveling, but it is simultaneously getting closer to and further away from its destination. In short, it's a paradox. For model railroaders, however, this paradox enables an unending loop of operation. It sounds impossible, but with a little visual trickery and proper setup, it is a very real possibility. I am going to present 2 examples of this theory in practice. Both focus on mineral traffic. The The first layout we'll look at is the Reading Pond Creek branch, another one of Nick Ozerak's renditions of an existing N-scale track plan. It contains 3 coal mines and a rail connection to the outside world through a tunnel. 2 of the coal mines are at the end of their own respective spurs, but one goes a little further. 2 tracks under this mine continue under the layout and connect with the line from the tunnel to the outside world. This feature gives the layout a way to simulate loading hoppers through a backdoor method, quite literally. The idea, at least in theory, is that a string of empty hoppers are dropped off at the coal mine, and a string of loaded hoppers are pulled from the mine. The hoppers are then taken to the outside world, when in reality they are just slipped under the layout and back into their starting positions. The empties are then picked up from below, and the process repeats. This particular layout has some limitations that make this a little awkward though, and I'm not sure if this was the intended use of the coal mine connection, or if that was just a way to shoehorn in a loop. Personally, if this were my layout, I would try to find a way to add more staging space. However, I can show another example of an infinitely operable layout. It's a bit smaller. This is the Mynydh Gwyn Railway, my own design and something I may build in future, if I can sort out some issues with space, among other things. Allow me to walk you through the basic operating theory of this layout. The locomotive goes down to the harbor and picks up a rake of empty slate wagons. These are taken to the slate quarry and parked in the passing loop. The engine then reaches into a mine tunnel and extracts a rake of loaded slate wagons before pushing the empty ones into the tunnel. The locomotive then heads back towards the harbor. Once by the engine sheds, the engine leaves the wagons in the passing loop and reverses to the harbor, where it picks up another set of empty wagons from a warehouse and shipping company. The engine returns to the sheds and then pushes the loaded wagons into the shipping warehouse. The engine may now return to the quarry with the empty wagons, and the process repeats itself. At this point, you have probably guessed how this works. In fact, the shipping warehouse and mine tunnel are 2 entrances to the same passage. One set of wagons perpetually travels in one direction around the layout, and the other travels in the opposite direction, giving the illusion of wagons traveling back and forth as they are loaded and unloaded. The layout has a few more traditional switching or shunting opportunities scattered about as well. Coal wagons are loaded at the port and taken to either restock the railway's supply or supply the quarry. Flat wagons for large chunks of raw slate travel back and forth, and I also intend to have side tip wagons for handling mine waste as an additional shunting task during slate runs. The railway also has the capacity for passenger trains. I have spent several hours running this little railway, which is 009 gauge and in reality would have a footprint of just over 4 feet by 4 feet, or 1.4 meters by 1.4 meters. Even if you complete all the static shunting tasks, you can keep running slate trains as long as your heart desires. Mix and match. The next question becomes, which theory should one use when planning a layout? The answer is, all of them. As a matter of fact, I will contend that the most versatile layout would be one that incorporates as many of these design principles as can be practically included in its space. Most of the layouts we have looked at in this video have some combination of these theories in their design. You can set a train up to run in a loop, or the layout can be run point to point. Even if layouts are primarily designed around loops, they can still have elements of point A to point B design in them. Take this for example, yet another one of Mr. Ozerak's virtual renditions. This is Frank DeStefano's Flushing and Brooklyn, a 3-foot by 6-foot HO-scale layout modeling 1830s era railroading. While primarily a loop for simply running and displaying models of early trains, the layout has a siding at a dock and a siding at a freight depot, or a point A and a point B. Therefore, if Mr. DeStefano wants to deal with the tiny couplings on these models and deliver a little freight, his layout will certainly lend itself to that. The Virginian also fits this same description, but in a slightly different way. The Virginian is primarily meant to be a switching and operations layout, but incorporates a loop into the design. This means that if you're not in the mood for work orders and angry miniature mine managers, you can just set a train in motion, watch it go, and deal with the angry mine managers later. The Myneth-Gwyn Railway incorporates all three of the theories I've discussed here today. It has a loop of track for continuous running, as the mine/shipping tunnel is large enough to accommodate a full train. It has sources and destinations for a variety of goods, as well as an endless cycle of slate traffic that can go on for as long or as short as the operator wishes it to. So there we have it, 3 theories of model train layout design. These are certainly not the only theories one can work from. These are just 3 theories that I think are worth consideration for designing your own layout, whether it be your first or 14th. I just hope that this video got you thinking. If you have a copy of Trainz Simulator 2019 or later and would like to try some of the layouts featured in this video, all of the featured layouts made by Nick Ozarek and many more can be found at his website, greattrainlayouts.com. A link has been provided in the description. I highly recommend you check it out. In the meantime, what kind of layout would you like to have? Drop a comment below, and let's see that beautiful variety one finds in this hobby. Speaking of which, stay safe out there, and enjoy this great hobby of ours.